My name is Jonas. I'm bass player of the Hope Conspiracy. I tour manage Bleeding Through. I work for a number of other bands. I work for Tiger Army. I work for a jazz guitar player named Charlie Hunter.
How is life on the road with Hope Conspiracy?
Life on the road now, whenever we play shows, it's just, at this point, it's five dudes who are great friends. You know, we're like brothers, you know, and it's five of us who just go do our thing, and you know, we really hang out, and we don't do anything at this point that we don't 100% want to do, anything that's not 100% financially feasible. I mean, as it is, you know, I was talking to somebody yesterday because they were asking, oh, that's cool, you got offered like a one-off show in fucking Zimbabwe or wherever the hell it is, you know, and it's like, yeah, but for us doing a one-off show, it's like 2 weeks of time, you know, because we don't all live together. We get together and we've practiced a few times in the last like year or so, but if we don't specifically have a show coming up, it's, you know, we're not playing old songs, we just get together to write new songs because that's what we want to do. And then when the time comes down, it's a lot of work to put something together, and in a way it's stressful, and I think that's one of the things that's contributed to doing it less and less. It's stressful to put it all together, to get everyone in town, and then it's like, you know what, we're all in town, why are we playing songs that we already wrote? Let's write new songs. So, but then when we do get together and we get on the road, you know, we're friends, you know, and we did a small amount of shows when our last record came out. I think we played 16 shows since that record came out almost 2 years ago. So, and you know what, most of the time, 99% of the time, it was like, these are all our friends. We're all friends, you know, and we're all hanging out together, and we're playing songs, and we're trying to be just a fucking tank running over kids' heads. So, which is how things changed, because I think we never really cared about it in that same aspect as we do now. When we started playing, things weren't how they are now, you know, and I really felt like I don't want to give us too much credit, because there was a certain amount of bands before that were playing all the time, you know what I mean? At that point in time, it was seriously, it was Reach the Sky, Buried Alive, Kill Your Idols, Indecision. And that's probably, like, of like the hardcore bands, those were the bands that said, fuck life, let's go. And from the second we put out our demo, that's what we did. You know, every week it was like, Friday night we'll play a show in Connecticut, Saturday we'll hit Virginia, Sunday we'll hit New York, Monday morning we go to work. Every single week, get out of work early, work whatever jobs we could to get out on Fridays, you know, so we could play 3 shows every weekend. And then once we hit, you know, 6-7 months in, and we had the capability, and like regionally we could do well enough, we had the capability then to go on a full U.S. tour, and we were blessed because Converge took us on our first U.S. tour. So it was easy first U.S. tour. I mean, we did many after that weren't nearly as good as that one. But, you know, once we did, then just started going, and things are different now, you know. Every band tours immediately now. You know, I look at every tour as a package tour, you know. It's like, there's nothing of, like, what we did, you know. It's not like, spend a year, you know, sorting yourself where you're from. And granted, I don't feel like we ever were identified strongly with like Boston or Boston hardcore, and I never feel like we did that well there, you know. And it's nothing. I just think it's the same as a lot of places. People just didn't know what to do with us, and we just played, you know. But I feel like regionally, we played, you know. I mean, I can't count the amount of times we played Syracuse, Buffalo, Albany, Rochester alone. Those are 4 upstate New York places. Probably played those 15 times each, you know what I mean? And that first year it was like, oh, who cares if we played last week? We'll just go back this week, you know, who cares? And then it was like, oh, DC, Baltimore, Arlington, Virginia, fucking Vienna, Virginia, like, just killing these areas, just playing and playing and playing and playing, but it's crazy, man. Like, it's not like that now. Like, we went full throttle, and we had the wind taken out of our sails a number of times with a number of things, until that was like the death of that era of what we were doing, and it was just stop and reevaluate everything you're doing. And that was not the death of the band, but it was kind of like, you know what, if we want to do this in any way, shape, or form, things have to change.
Talk, I guess, briefly about your experience in Harvest.
The impact of the band is weird to me, because a lot of it, almost like the first HopeCon recordings, it sounds like that time, and not necessarily in a good way. Like when I played in Harvest, I was on the last record. I was 17. I was like just out of high school, and like I knew the dudes, but they were also my favorite band. So it was like, hey, we need a bass player, get in the band. And I was like, I suck at bass, okay, let's do it, And it kind of blows my mind now when people are like, oh man, you were in Harvest. Because like, I mean, it was just like any other band, but we were so isolated from everything else at the time that maybe it wasn't just like any other band, And we were just playing, we just played, and then just like any other band, we broke up. And now it's going to be 2009 before we know it, and our last show was 10 years ago. It was the beginning of 1998 was our last show. And I mean, I was a kid, like I was really a kid, and even the rest of the band, like everyone was young, I mean, they were older than me, and I was like definitely the baby of the band. But it was really like, it's mind blowing, just like anything else, that holy shit, people still think about that, and it's cool.
In Boston, you weren't exactly the cat's meow,
yeah.
Whereas in the surrounding regions, you were, and your profile would rise and stuff. What is it with Boston hardcore? Why didn't you rise there?
I don't know, and I don't feel like we ever we weren't shunned by any means. I mean, we played with, we played. I was talking to someone yesterday. We played. I was talking to Scott Lee. I don't know if you know Scott Lee,
okay.
But yeah, he had been doing shows from the beginning for us, and we were talking about playing Springfield, Fat Cats, like all these shows that we played. We played one show was like One King Down, Death Threat, and like Buried Alive or something. I don't know, like crazy shit. We played in Massachusetts. I remember we were talking about playing In My Eyes record release show, like their second records, like In My Eyes, One King Down, Fast Break, Reach the Sky, and HopeCon, something like that. And we were talking about it, and I was like, man, that's so crazy. That was so long ago. And we would play shows like that all the time. But whatever it was, like, it happened all over the place. It wasn't necessarily Boston, but it may have just been more apparent because there was bands, American Nightmare coming up at our same time. All bands that had like more, just faster bands, less heavy bands at the time, Like Converge has been a mainstay. Converge has always been there, but less heavy bands at that time, and even throughout the whole time, But I don't know if our music didn't translate in the same way those bands did. Like it just wasn't the same. But I felt like there was always people, to a certain extent, that would give us the respect when we played, just because we were working hard, And I know sometimes like there's always haters, and that's how it goes, And it's funny to think about through the years, especially in Boston, different people not liking different things for whatever reason, and anything happening. It's just all funny, but it's definitely not that we never had respect. I just think we were always like in a different mindset than a lot of people, and it may be because our band was 3/5 Minnesota, 1/5 Chicago, 1/5 Massachusetts. So like our collective mindset was simply to get together and play music, and when we put together, it was put together how we thought we could play songs with like-minded people. And I don't know if that hasn't always been the same thing like in that region or what it is, but I think we had something really particular in mind. It was cool, it's not, that's no like beef in any way that we didn't have a certain thing. I mean, to this day, like last time we played Boston, I think there was 150 people, you know what I mean? So, and it's cool, but I think people expect something different. So, for a long time we tried to figure out like what bands we could tour with and what we could do and this and that. And in general, like it's always if you can find someone with your same mindset. But I think a lot of the time we're kind of oddballs anyway, and now at this point that's totally content with that. It's what we do. We'll get together in my basement next week, and there'll be 3 of us writing songs, and whatever we can do to make us happy is what's going to be done.